If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery. So you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
In this episode of Pop Culture Weekly, I talk with Embeth Davidtz all about her brand new film, Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight. I speak with Ben Barnes and Joe Freeman about their new Stephen King limited series, The Institute. And then it's all about the new horror movie, Skillhouse, as I talk with director Josh Stolberg. And then the controversial, the love him or hate him, I happen to like him, Bryce Hall. Let's go!
Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon from iHeartRadio. Your pop culture news, views, reviews, and celebrity interviews on all the movies, TV, music, and pop culture you crave weekly. Here's Kyle McMahon.
Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon. I, of course, am Kyle McMahon, and this is the show that's basically like your group chat. If your group chat had much better lighting, way better guests, and zero patience for basic stuff. This episode is so stacked, I had to cancel plans with my dog Blue just to record it. That's how stacked it is. I'm joined by the one and only Embeth Davidtz to talk about her powerful new film, Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, a story that's emotional, raw, and 100% Oscar bait in the best way. I also speak with Ben Barnes and Joe Freeman, who star in the chilling new limited series, The Institute. And yes, it's based on that Stephen King novel from 2019. And yes, it's creepy. And yes, Ben Barnes' jawline still somehow defines science. Then we go into full horror influencer spiral with Bryce Hall, who's out here proving that he's more than just a TikTok brawler, and Josh Stolberg, the twisted mind behind Saw, and now Skillhouse, a movie that asks, what if influencer culture was actually deadly? And spoiler alert, it already kind of is. So let's get right into it. Let's buckle up, grab your ring light, and hop in. This is Pop Culture Weekly. All right, my first guest is a powerhouse of an actress whose performances have been haunting, graceful, and award-worthy for decades. Whether she's surviving Schindler's List, shaking up Mad Men, or calling the shots in the morning show. Now, Embeth Davidtz stars and directs Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, a moving new film based on Alexandra Fuller's best-selling memoir about growing up during Civil War in 1970s Rhodesia. Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight is raw. It's beautifully shot. It gives Embeth one of her most powerful roles to date, and she directed and co-wrote it. Get ready for a deep dive into memory and identity and one family's attempt to hold it all together through really just absolute chaos. Please welcome to Pop Culture Weekly, the incredible Embeth Davidtz. Thank you so much, Embeth, for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So first of all, congratulations on the film. It's absolutely incredible. I want to start out by saying that.
Yeah.
Of course, you've had an incredible career. You have an incredible career that, at least to me, seems like you've had very thoughtful choices in the roles you've played or chosen. And I feel like that's not always the case for everybody. Some people need to take a job for money, or they have a period where, they got to do what they have to do. All of yours, at least from the outside, have seemed very carefully and thoughtfully chosen. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's accurate. And I think I've also done that to a fault at times. My agents would go, let's not even talk about the things she said no to. So I think in my career, I said no probably much too much in the beginning. I think I was too thoughtful. I was too careful. But particularly as I've been, as I've been older, as an older actor, I think the choices were very much made around material, around directors, and around where in the world it would take me and for how long when my children were little. now I'm free of that because they're out of the house, and that enabled me to be able to make the film.
I love that. And speaking of don't let's go to the dogs tonight. It is your directorial debut. What was it about this story that made you say that's the one I want to tell?
So it was the memoir. It was what Alexandra Fuller wrote in that memoir. And I've spoken to many people who have lived in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, Kenya, anyone who's lived in Africa, and not just because I think it was a New York Times bestseller, people all over the world, the way that she wrote. I think it's the actor part of me that saw characters that were so multi-dimensional, fully fleshed out, original, eccentric, wildly crazy stories, but she wrote it. So her writing is so gripping and so beautiful, but the characters were really the thing that called to me. And I thought, gosh, this setting is so similar, so reflects a lot of what I experienced in South Africa. I really think I know how to tell the story.
I can see that come through, watching the film, that passion behind it and the connection. It's beautifully done in my opinion. And of course, and there are so many complex themes, colonialism and loss and coming of age in a kind of around chaos. How do you, as the director, how do you translate those themes that are so wonderfully, and authentically stated in the book? How do you translate that to the screen?
Listen, it was very hard. Many drafts, many layers, literally. And a lot of that, again, came from the author, because the author had the book as a template, the characters, they were there, they were fully fleshed out. I knew what the characters were. Then I had to figure out what's the narrative, because the book spans 20-something years. I needed to tell it in a much shorter space of time. And during the time that I was writing, so much was given to me by Alexandra Fuller in terms of, this is what you need to understand about Zimbabwe. This is what you need to understand about what her family went through. This is what you need to understand about, I could observe her and see her at this moment in her life. What are the things that later come up? So loss and the fracturing of family and mental illness and alcoholism and a child who, how does a child survive this? What happened with race? What happened with, colonialism? What was left? What was done to the indigenous people by the colonialism? So every one of those threads got woven in, and I was very slow with writing it, but the time that I took to educate myself and the time that Alexandra gave me to educate me really helped me flesh that out. And that's how I could actually address it in the filming, because I think it was Guillermo del Toro that said a film is made up of 20,000 accidents or something. Literally every day was an accident. What can I get the child to do? Can she focus? Can she concentrate? What are the mistakes she made? She's got hiccups. She's yawning. Oh, I can take the yawn where the camera was rolling, and when she finished yawning, her eyes were watering. I'm going to grab that little piece and put that into an emotional sequence that I need. So the script was solid. The story was solid. I knew that I wanted the mythology as well of the Shona people. I wanted that to sort of be the heavens under which the whole thing rested. So it was the 6 years of writing that I think got me ready to make the film.
And how do you walk that line between honoring Alexandra's voice and your own as a filmmaker? Like, how do you find that balance?
It's sort of a precarious razor's edge that I walked, because imagine, on many levels, I feel like I've appropriated her story and merged it with my own, and a lot of discussion, a lot of, and there were ways, things in the ultimate end of the film, 1 or 2 scenes that she said, you didn't need to have that there, but I felt I needed it there. So there's a certain point at which you have to separate from the book. But I think doing the due diligence of really listening to her, really reading all of her books, everything I could lay my hands on that she ever wrote, every interview that she ever gave, to understand the person behind the writing gave me really deep roots into her world, and then you have to pivot. And so there's the extra 10% where you then go, now this is the story that I'm going to tell. And with it, bringing my own experience to it. And yeah, and even what I wanted to show. What is it that I wanted to show? Where could I shoot it? I couldn't shoot it in Zimbabwe because it doesn't have the infrastructure. They don't have the crews, and financially I wouldn't get the tax break that I got in South Africa. So again, I'm sure she would have preferred that I had it shot really in the exact place that it all took place, but you have to take license with certain things.
And do you feel, you've done in your career, acting, you've done completely fictional things. You've done things based in history and real life. Miss Honey, I love Miss Honey, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Do you feel a sense, especially when you're working with Alexandra, do you feel a sense of responsibility in telling a story that is true, or are you able to kind of...
Hugely, because think about the elements of the story. There's a massive family tragedy. There's a huge sort of scar of racism and white supremacy, and it's a real thing. So if I tripped carelessly over those things, I'm not honoring the story. There's mental illness, there's alcoholism, there's damage done within a family. So I think it's a massive responsibility, much like portraying what we needed to in Schindler's List was. You can't take that stuff on lightly. You can get criticized too for taking it on at all. That was a precarious thing for me. A lot of people said, well, who wants to hear the white point of view or a white woman telling a story? And I thought, for myself, I know that I had the end of the film, for instance, that was me, and I wrote that into the screenplay, and I thought there is that I have to put my own DNA into this, in what do I see when I look back at Africa? I see that woman. I see what Bobo sees when she turns around at the end of the film and looks out the back window. That is what influenced me in my life. I know it influenced Alexandra in her life because she's talked about it a lot. But yeah.
For you, now that you've kind of gotten this film under your belt, is there something that you would say today to you on day one of shooting?
Yes, I would say, you know how to do this. So the first week or so where I think I was tentative about directing, tentative about some of the technical stuff, I would just say, you absolutely know how to do this, because probably about a week in, I had to say to a couple of departments, I know how to do this. Please, you have to listen to me. And I think as a woman sort of raised at a certain time in the world, I didn't have that voice necessarily. I didn't feel, it's like Matilda. I don't have a voice. I don't know how to speak up for myself. And I learned it quickly, and I'm glad I learned it in time. But that's what I would say is, you know how to do it. You know enough. You've been on enough film sets, and you know how to do it, basically.
I love that. And I think that's a good reminder for anybody that kind of gets into that imposter syndrome almost, is, you are here for a reason to do this. So,
yeah.
Now that the project is out, do you see your next project being directing, or do you want to take a break and go into acting? Like, what are you thinking now?
If a fantastic director comes along, one of the directors that I love, or a fantastic part, absolutely. I would love the ease. Oh my God, the ease of just acting now would be so wonderful, to not have the responsibility of everything. But really what I want to do after all of this is done is I've got a few ideas. I want to sit down and start writing again, because I'm slow at it. And I have a couple of ideas of things that I think could make, something interesting. But it's a long process for me. I'd love to direct again. Again, I know I have to love the story as much as I love this. And I think this is my most beloved child. I just can't imagine loving a story as much as I love this. I fell in love with the book. The book sort of entered my bloodstream, and so I could draw from that. I wonder that I'll ever have that kind of rich source material again, but I do want to try and do it again, because the act of creating the in its entirety was a wonderful thing for me.
And you've worked with some of the, most amazing directors of all time, Tim Burton, Steven Spielberg, Sam Raimi. I mean, did you along the way pick up anything that you now use in your own directing?
Yes, for sure. I feel as though, first and foremost, Spielberg influenced me much more than I thought. So first of all, watching him, very decisive, very, very visual, but it's his films, not so much my experience of working with him, although that I learned a lot about how you run a set, how you move quickly, how you decisively know how to shoot exactly what you want. But his child point of view, it's in a lot of his films. That idea of sort of going into the world of the child and that being the entryway by which the audience comes into your story is so powerful and resonated for me over and over again in his films. And Bob Altman had a way of just being an incredibly fluid, on the ball, let it evolve the way that it evolves. So that moving camera, I had to do that because I had a 7-year-old in the lead. I had to be on my toes, have 2 cameras. And I always said to the camera that was closest, you've got to grab everything. Get her pulling her shorts out of her, she'd have a wedgie, or, get her when she has her hiccups, get a close-up of her filthy feet, and be on that magnificent face as much as you can, because that's the way that we would tell the story. And Bob Altman just had a very casual rhythm that wasn't as stressed, wasn't a contracted, strident way. He was very loose, and especially working with a child, you kind of had to be that way to keep it playful, keep it light, even when it's a heavy subject matter, so that everyone doesn't contract,
I love that so much. Embeth, thank you. I can't wait for everybody to see the film. It is so powerful, and you have done such an incredible job with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Embeth Davidtz. She's truly phenomenal, truly one of the greats. And you can catch her in Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, which is out right now in select theaters and POV, and it's absolutely worth the emotional damage. So bring tissues and wine or, water. All right, we're going to take a quick 60-second break to pay the bills. And we'll be going from childhood traumas to supernatural trauma when we return with Ben Barnes and Joe Freeman discussing their new limited series, The Institute. Be back in 60. All right. Thank you for supporting our sponsors that support this show that lets me bring it to you every week. So thank you for that. Let's keep the vibes, but now let's make them weird with my next guest. All right, Stephen King fans, don't freak out, or do, because this one's for you and me, because I'm a Stephen King fan. The Institute is the chilling new limited series on MGM Plus, based on Stephen King's 2019 novel about a mysterious government facility that abducts gifted children with psychic abilities and then puts them through, crazy experiments. Think like Stranger Things if it was written by someone who definitely doesn't believe in happy endings. Starring the always suave Ben Barnes and rising star Joe Freeman, The Institute really dives deep into the themes of control, power, and childhood lost in the creepiest way possible. So here to talk about the series and how they survived shooting this psychological nightmare are Ben Barnes and Joe Freeman.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for having us.
Of course. First of all, congratulations on The Institute. I really love it. It's such a great series. Tell me, for both of you, Stephen King is such a legendary talent, What is it like doing, a version of one of his books? Ben, how about for you?
I mean, I've always been such a huge Stephen King fan. He's probably the most successfully adapted writer maybe of all time. I don't know. I mean, I've loved so many of his movies, from Shawshank to The Green Mile to Stand By Me to The Running Man. I'm not a massive horror guy, which is interesting. When you think about Stephen King, you associate him with that, but actually he writes in all these different genres, and he writes about hope and humanity and toppling systems of oppression and banding together and friendship and love. And he writes about all the most important things, and all of those things I think are very neatly contained in this Institute story. Really two stories, Tim's story and Luke's story, that then kind of combine into one story as we go. And it's got a really slow burn, kind of simmering, horrifying tension to it as well. So it's really, really cool to be able to say that you play a character in the Stephen King cinematic universe.
Yeah. How about for you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it's you forget how much he has done.
So
the amount of classics that are out there, and then you find out that it's Stephen King. And you're like, well, of course it is. Like, he's just, to be a part of that is amazing. And also for my personal family, my granddad, he could not believe it. Like, he is the biggest Stephen King fan I know. He's got every book. It was special to be able to tell my family that, oh, I've got this cool job, and they're like,
and to be so brilliant in it as well.
Thank you.
And running with that, Joe, did you feel some kind of responsibility, first of all, or pressure to do something from Stephen King? And then with you, your grandfather, I believe you said, like, then you have that on top of it. Did you feel like extra pressure with that?
Yeah, I mean, with my granddad, he's one of those people that's just like, oh, I love it no matter what it is. Like, but if it's the worst thing in the world, it's just still great. But Stephen King, you've got to be more on it.
No more judicious.
Yeah. I don't think I have the same relationship with him as I do with my granddad.
If you spend more time with him,
possibly, but he's like, you want to try and we talked about this, is you don't want to distance it too much from what Stephen King originally wrote for the characters, because you want to be able to bring his book to life in the way that he imagined it as much as possible, while also incorporating your own stuff into the role.
And for you, Ben, you've done all kinds of work. Do you feel, when you're doing an adaptation of a Stephen King project, do you feel pressure or anything, or are you able to kind of like chill? And
I think there is a bit more pressure when there's a novel, because people have preconceived ideas when they've read a story about, they've imagined the character, they've pictured them walking around, they've pictured them doing these having these sort of dynamic adventures, saying the things that you say. So I think when it's just a script, you're the author of that character. Whereas there's always a bit more pressure when there's expectation on it, I think. But because it's a more recent book, I don't know if every Stephen King fan has found their way to this story, and I think we've got a really compelling version of it, and the characters are truthful enough to the story, but a little bit different enough for the people who've watched the story to feel that there's still some suspense in it. But yeah, I've been very lucky to work on different adaptations. I could never ask like Oscar Wilde what he thought of My Dorian Gray, but Stephen King coming on board as a producer on this show after he watched some certainly felt like a really valuable stamp of approval for us.
Yeah. And going with that, Ben, it is, and he tends to write emotionally heavy characters that, not just sometimes the situations that are scary, but the emotional things that they're facing are scary as well. Is that one of the things that attracted you to the project?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always keen to get involved with projects that I feel like have subtext to them, which can connect with the world that we're living in. The kind of chaos of the world, the nastiness of it, the heaviness of it, even the best of men living with, questioning their conscience. But people always say, like, if you wouldn't. Oh, I'm wrestling with this. I wondered if I did the right thing. And the fact that you're wrestling with something shows what a good person that you are in the first place, that you're not one of the psychopaths. And I think it connects with those kind of themes, but it also connects with what Stephen King writes about a lot, which is the vulnerable kind of banding together and using their collective powers to kind of topple systems that seem to be working unregulated, unchecked, to kind of retain their power and to, just to kind of behave however they want to behave. And so I think he is a very thoughtful person about the world that we live in, and he engages with that through his storytelling.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, what is the thing that you have found doing the series, that something that you could take from either your character or one of the other characters? Is there anything that you have kind of taken personally home with you?
Well, I mean, from the get-go, it was like I wanted to try and incorporate some of who I am into Luke anyway, just to make it, because why would you want to make it more difficult for yourself?
And also, it's the most honest.
Yeah. So I suppose I haven't taken anything from Luke per se, but sort of given Luke, and I suppose take it anywhere. Like you know what I mean? Like yeah.
You've contributed some of Joe into Luke.
Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah.
How about for you, Ben? I'm interested in that for you as well. Like, as you do every project that you do, is there something that you take from it, or are you more like Joe, or you want to give part of Ben and then move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think you look for the qualities, certainly for this character, having played a bunch of baddies in a row, to have a character who's gripping so firmly to their moral compass, and playing a character for whom it's important to be a good man in the world, to be a man full of decency, to be someone who's fueled by protection and love rather than by ambition, which I've played a few of those in a row. It's always nice to kind of feel like you admire the characters that you're playing, and you're looking to represent something even in a fictional world, because I think this stuff translates. It's important, the stories that we tell, and it's important, the messages we put out there.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you both so much. I can't wait for everybody to see the Institute. They're going to enjoy it as much as I did. I know it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, mate.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Ben Barnes and Joe Freeman. Big thanks to them for creeping us out in the best way possible. The Institute is streaming right now on MGM Plus, and trust me, you will never look at a government facility or a gifted child in the same way again. Now, if you're thinking, that show is wild, but what if someone made a horror movie about influencers? Well, don't you worry, my beautifuls. The next guy already did. So let's bring in Josh Stolberg. Josh is the twisted genius who's written multiple Saw films like Spiral, Saw 10, Saw X, Piranha 3D, and now brings us the horror movie we all knew was coming. It's called Skillhouse, and it is a razor-sharp, gory as hell satire horror that follows a group of influencers that are like competing for fame in a reality show where your follower count just might determine whether you live or die. And yes, it is just as gloriously unhinged as it sounds. So we're going to talk blood, fame, and cancel culture because writer Josh Stolberg is here to talk about killing clout chasers, working with actual TikTok stars, and why horror is still the best genre to hold up a mirror to our culture. I truly believe that. Here he is, Josh Stolberg. First of all, Josh, welcome. I appreciate you speaking with me.
I'm so happy to be here. I love iHeartRadio. I listen to it daily. So it's where it's my podcast streaming of choice. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So congrats on the film. I want to go back a little bit though on your career first. You've had an awesome career as writer and director. You didn't necessarily start out with horror, but then you kind of did.
Yeah. Here are my first credits. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show, Sabrina, the animated series, Avatar, The Last Airbender on Nick. Like all of my stuff is all, like when I started was all kid stuff. And then at some point I was sitting in a room writing dumb jokes about getting kicked in the balls, and kids laughing at it. And I was just like, I got to find something else. And my first horror script was actually I couldn't get hired to write a horror film because I was known in the kids space. And I had a friend who owned the rights to Piranha, the old Piranha movie.
Yeah.
And I called him up one day. I heard he had the rights. I was like, look, I know you're not going to hire me to do it. Give me 3 weeks. Give me 3 weeks. Don't sell it. Don't hire somebody else. Just give me 3 weeks. I'm going to write a script called Killer Fish. And if you like it, you can turn it into Piranha 3D. And if you hate it, you can throw it away. And I'll wait till after your movie gets made and I'll try to make Killer Fish someplace else. And that's when Pete and I wrote Piranha 3D, and it was our first horror script sold, and it led down the path of me pursuing horror movies, which has always been my love. Like Halloween changed my life as a kid. And then being able to, like, I even got the chance. Pete and I did a rewrite of a Halloween movie, and being able to write kills for the Michael Myers after having a poster of him up in my wall growing up was just, it blew my mind.
Yeah. And that's actually, I was going to ask you about horror. I'm a huge horror fan, and I love your horror work. First of all, Piranha was such a fun horror movie that kind of, crossed different not boundaries, genres is the word I was thinking. And maybe some boundaries too.
Definitely some boundaries.
But then the 3 Saw films you did are, I would say, they're my 3 favorite, but I would say generally in the Saw fandom are probably the 3 most beloved films as well. Were you a fan before that, or were you like become a student and then, jump into it?
No. I saw the original Saw in Westwood the night it opened, a Friday night showing at midnight. I was standing in line in a huge line because the word of mouth had already gotten out, and it blew. And when Tobin Bell stands up at the end, it just blew my mind. I became addicted with the franchise. But again, like I said, I was writing for Sabrina, so nobody would have ever brought me in. So it took writing Sorority Row and Piranha 3D and those films in order to get the attention of the studio. So walking in to do Saw was really kind of a dream come true. It's one of my favorite franchises. Tobin Bell, I think, is the most iconic horror because of how layered the character is. And while I really appreciate you, Kyle, for saying how beloved all 3 are, the first 2 were tough. Jigsaw was kind of trying to come back to something after it had been dormant for such a long time and trying to find a way to make it new and old at the same time. And then Spiral going so far out into left field with Chris Rock. I think while we brought in some fans that became friends of the franchise because of Rock, the film I think disappointed a lot of the Saw fans because it didn't have Tobin Bell in it. So when we started with 10, I said to them from the very, very get that this should be a John Kramer movie. This should be all about John Kramer. Don't want to see a frame of the movie that he's not in. And I'm very thankful that they said yes. The Twisted Picture producers were both totally on board, and it was. I am very, very proud of that movie and happy that it was so well received both critically and by the fans.
Yeah, especially for a franchise that has been around for a long time,
Number 10, dude.
Yeah.
Number 10, Kyle.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to get a good review on number 10.
Exactly. They're supposed to be in space or something by then.
Exactly.
So for Skillhouse, it really kind of exposes the dark side of influencer culture and clout chasing and that sort of thing. Is this like a love letter or a warning about kind of, this culture?
I'm hoping it's a bit of a love letter for the kids because we're seeing them, we're taking them in and trying to show a little bit of their lives. And we really also tried to create an interactive feel with the way we shot the movie, the screen language of the film. with the vertical phone frames and the comment overlays and the deepfake videos. They're all woven into the cinematography. And we're kind of hoping that it mirrors a little bit about how Gen Z consumes media. So there's that, but me coming at it and looking at it and getting angry at my kids all the time for how much time they're scrolling on TikTok and why they're now go out and play with their friends. I really look at this movie as less of a horror film and more of a horror satire. We're skewering the influencer culture a little bit about the idea of that the way that they look at being seen is all about getting likes. It's all about getting clicks, getting subscribes, getting likes. And likes are like life for them. And we decided to make a movie where, they actually are life. If you don't get the likes, then you die. So that was really important. And also, thematically, look, I love these kids. I absolutely love them. Just like I love my own kids, but I can be disappointed in the way that they behave sometimes. I can critique the way they behave sometimes, and I am not just laying it on their feet. I'm also laying it on the audience's feet as well. This film thematically is about spectacle for profit, but it's also about the audience's complicity in what's happening. These kids would not be jumping from one rooftop onto another rooftop and accidentally killing themselves if they weren't doing it for likes, if they weren't doing it. And if when the kid does die and it spreads all over social media and goes viral, it just makes more kids see that, oh, that kid got famous. I can do the same thing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And what we tried to do is the film literally packages violence for the viewers in the same way that the influencer culture does.
I love that. Do you think Gen Z in particular is desensitized to violence? Like, do you have to up the stakes more in film because of what they expose themselves all the time on their phones?
That's a really, really good point. And the truth is that I've been scrolling and seeing so much real life violence online, especially with the wars going on, and seeing just so many just horrific images, whether it's from the wars or from the floods or like whatever it is. I do think that there is a separation between real violence and art violence. There's nothing I like more than coming up with a cool way to kill somebody, but I'm doing it with the idea that it's a roller coaster ride for the audience. It's, I want them to experience the thrill and the panic. But I'm a big believer in that horror films. You should also be able to eat your popcorn at the same time and not throw up into the bucket. That said, as you just kind of commented on, I think horror movies are going up and up. The Terrifier franchise. I've got my own podcast that's on iHeartRadio. I'll plug it right now. Darren and Josh Make a Movie. We just talked to Lauren Lavera, who's the star of The Terrifier, and that episode dropped today. And the idea, we were fighting the MPAA on every single, we couldn't show things in Saw because the MPAA said no. But then to see Damien put out Terrifier and just say, fuck the MPAA, we don't need you. We're going to go out at C-17 unrated, and it kills, it destroys, it makes it. I think it might have made more money than Jigsaw did in the opening weekend. So F the gatekeepers, we need to let the audience enjoy what they want to enjoy.
I love that, Josh. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure speaking to you, and I can't wait for everybody to see Skillhouse.
Thanks a lot, Kyle. I really appreciate it. It was really nice talking to you.
You as well. Thank you. You too.
All right, man.
Josh Stolberg, the brilliantly twisted man who took influencer culture, added blood, added satire, and called it Skillhouse. I'm telling you, the film is a total ride, and it just might make you rethink your next TikTok. Love Josh. Such a pleasure talking to him. And speaking of TikTok, when we come back, we're going to speak with the man who stars in all of this madness. You know him, you've seen the headlines, and yes, he's still standing. Bryce Hall joins us right here in 60 seconds. All right. As always, thank you for supporting our sponsors because they allow me to bring this show to you. All right. Whether you know him from TikTok, from throwing hands in influencer boxing rings, or from being on every Gen Z mood board marked chaotic neutral, my next guest has officially entered his horror movie era. Bryce Hall stars in Skillhouse, blood-soaked, no-filter satire that asks, what if chasing clout literally killed you? And as I said earlier, spoiler alert, we kind of know that it already does. But in this case, there's way more gore and slightly fewer brand deals. Speaking of killer brand deals, I am dying to support your business. Hit us up if you're interested. I'm only partly kidding. All right, let's get into it with Bryce Hall. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm vibing. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, you loving this?
Yeah.
So what's the excitement like for you? I mean, you have a movie coming out this week. Like, tell me about that. What are you thinking?
You know, I thought it was going to be smooth sailing, just posting my videos, and people were just going to go in there, and then people were telling me I have to do press things, and I'm like, what does that mean? So now I'm here doing an interview with a bunch of people, and everyone that sees multiple interviews is going to see I'm wearing the same exact outfit in every interview. So I think it's great, though, besides, that.
So what was it like? I mean, this is, you've made a movie, you've crossed that bridge, so to speak. How has this been for you? Is it fundamentally different from what you have typically done in your career?
Filmed this 3 years ago, and it felt like I was filming a higher production YouTube skit. That's what it genuinely felt like. It was a great experience, though. It was really fun, and I saw some clips and some final cuts of everything. It turned out great, way better than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
And so Skillhouse, it kind of dives into the darker side of influencer culture, how much of that, obviously this isn't a documentary, but how much of that is taken from your own life for your character in the film in general?
Oh, it's extremely similar, except the fact that I don't die. And no other social media creators die if they don't reach a certain amount of views. But the culture of wanting as many eyeballs on you as possible and doing anything to do that, the message was there. It's just a little deeper in the film.
And do you feel that there is this pressure, you've been creating a long time, do you feel even today that there is this pressure to be bigger and better and get more eyes on it? And, is it this constant struggle today still?
For me, I don't do the crazy things that I was doing when I first started to get eyeballs. Now it's like I'm the most authentic version of myself online, and I feel like this is my lane. Like the lane that I'm doing right now is what I want. But social media creators that are just starting, the live streamers, those guys have to think of something every single day that's going to get eyeballs, and I can see how that can be a lot.
What's your advice for those guys and, those people starting out?
Don't take it too far. Even if I say don't take it too far, they're going to be like, oh, that's easy. But you never know when you take it too far until you get the backlash. So just maybe ask your peers around you if you're taking it too far.
Okay. And, you have been known for being pretty unfiltered in your content. Was there ever a time making this where you kind of had to hold back some of you, either in actual production or the film itself?
My character is based off of a more exaggerated version of myself. So if I did have like a outburst like that, they kept it in the film. There were some weird moments where the producer who I'm close with, one of the producers, Ryan Cavanaugh and Brad Baskin, like I'm close with them, they would get me angry or throw it on set, and I would be ranting about something else, and they would put it in a scene that matched that vibe. It was so weird, like how movie creation works. Like they used some of the clips where I was arguing, and they were putting it in the film, and it looked great. I was like, "What? How did you guys do that?" They usually like my phone to edit. I'm like, "What?"
You know, Skillhouse is a horror film, quite obviously. What is the realest horror moment that you've had? You know, you've had a long career in your influencing career, I guess is the best way to say it.
Um,
You know, ever had any scary things?
I never had a scary moment, but I think if you look at it deeper, some of the comments that are extremely negative, you could say that that could be horror related, but honestly, I never really cared for hate. I never really cared if people hated me.
How did you like just let that roll off?
I think it's the way I grew up. Shout out to my mom. I don't know. I just was bullied throughout my entire high school, middle school. So like I kind of was just used to people taking shots at me and then just being like, "Ah, I don't even care."
Hmm. And it's kind of funny, like, you know, thinking about it in under the lens of your career that, you know, you have had these haters that like, yeah, bro, you're one of tens of thousands of comments on a video with tens of millions of views. Like, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, also I use it as like great. I respond to some of the hate comments because it's great video content.
Mm.
Like I can make it into like a comedy, like a comical video just based off of like some of their hate comments. It's actually really fun to do.
I love that. So some critics, and I don't consider, you know, myself a critic. I'm a huge movie buff, obviously, but I review movies, but I'm not like a critic. But some critics say that influencers don't belong in cinema. Do you feel that Skillhouse, and especially you know, now that you have a film under your belt, presumably more to come in your career, do you feel that that is like an old way of thinking?
I think that is an old way of thinking. I don't think anyone thought social media creators would be as big as they are today or as influential in modern day culture as they are today. Like they're already being put in random movies, like Family Guy has addressed some social media creators. They're putting social media creators everywhere now because it's so hip, it's so new. Like live streamers, they're the biggest thing in the world. Some of these influencers, some of these creators are getting more views than A-list celebrities now, you know? Like it's new world, and social media has a way bigger impact than people think, or as Hollywood thinks, I guess. I guess this is the first one. This is going to be the first test, like, or the stepping stone to maybe potentially like a new world of Hollywood.
Do you think Hollywood fears influencers taking over the traditional system?
I think I can see how it would be scary because it's a bunch of people who have no PR training, a bunch of people who have just like experience with a camera that's on them and they say whatever they want. Like they're like a walking time bomb for Hollywood, yeah.
What do you see in your future now? You know, now that you've been expanding your creative outlets, you know, did you get the taste for film and now like you want to double down on that, or you know, what are you thinking?
We're already working on a pretty awesome movie, not Skillhouse related. Like it's a pretty sick concept and the budget is pretty high. This film should be great.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to be dipping my toes in every form of entertainment, and acting is one of those things. So yeah.
That's like the teaser of the century. Are you a horror fan in general?
I love horror films. Yeah.
So what are your, you know, a few years ago, as you started into this project, was there anything that you took, binged or whatever to kind of hype yourself up to be in a horror film?
I just watched a bunch of horror films. I watch horror films like every single night. I think it's the only
So do I.
only thing I watch. So there's no like real studying for it. It was just kind of like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And some of the things that we were shooting on set, I didn't think were going to look as good. And then they showed me what it was going to look like and what it looked like after it was done. I was like, oh my, wow. The movie creation behind the scenes is insane.
What is some of your favorites?
Dude, you could ask that like for, I mean, is Final Destination considered a horror?
I would say so.
I think
True.
that whole thing, all the Final Destinations were one of my favorites. Hereditary.
Oh, that is one of my absolute favorites.
Hereditary was a great film.
Have you seen Bring Her Back?
Bring Her Back. Which one is that? Is that newer?
It's the Philippou brothers that did Talk to Me.
Oh, yes. Yeah, like Talk to Me was really good.
Yeah, so that's their latest film.
Oh, I have to watch that then.
It's really dope. If you liked Talk to Me, it's like Talk to Me times 10.
Talk to Me was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Do you like those kind of artsy, they call them elevated horrors, or like, I don't care. I'll watch.
I like paranormal horrors.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the serial killer horrors are not my go-to picks, but like paranormal horrors is like, I watch those all the time.
I love that. Where do you see, for your next film, for instance, is that in the horror genre?
No, this is action, and this is an action film. Yeah.
Okay. So you're totally like just branching out everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's awesome. Like I'm excited for this one.
What do you hope for people to take from Skillhouse?
Just the underlying message of stay grounded, don't do things for views. Like that whole thing. Like just don't go out and do stupid things or not morally correct things for views.
Okay. And I got on my way here, I was stuck behind an accident, and there was a notification on my news that said you have challenged 50 Cent to a boxing match or something. Is that true?
That was a joke that TMZ asked. TMZ said, you're doing the bare knuckle thing. That's awesome. Like, when's your next fight? And I basically answered, I was like, oh yeah, I have a fight coming up actually really soon. And they go, really? That's awesome. Can we know? And I said 50 Cent because of the whole lawsuit thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I just gave him clickbait. I was just like, yeah, here's your clickbait.
I love that because it worked for me. And since I was like driving, I was like, okay, I can't click through. Like, listen, this is what our goal. Yeah, exactly. So, and then I came right here. So I'm like, okay, I'll just ask him about it. 50 Cent, I interviewed him one time for one of the Power shows. And I love him so much. And I was so nervous meeting him. And I said, because the Power series that we were talking about was about kind of loosely based on 50's life when he was younger. So I said something like so like cringy. Like I was like, so this is kind of a story about when you were 25 Cent. And like, then I'm like, wait, why did I say that? And he like stopped like this. And then it felt like it was 48 minutes before he was like, and then started cracking up. And then I started cracking up because I was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to get beat up or something.
That went through. Now he was really cool on set when we were filming this film. He was extremely cool. I don't know what happened with that whole lawsuit thing. I know he lost a few days ago, but I don't know what that whole thing was about.
So he was involved in the production.
Yes, he was. He was huge involvement.
Which is awesome because a lot of times, you see films that have a producer credit from somebody, and they never went to set or anything. I mean,
yeah, no, he was involved. He was in a ton of scenes. Like he was in there.
I love that, bro. Thank you so much for speaking with me. Skillhouse is awesome. I can't wait for everybody to see it.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, of course. As I said, I'm a big horror buff, and I don't care if something was made with a $12 camera. If it's horror, I'm in. And this one I love like the message behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's cool that it delves into influencer culture and plays with our kind of fears on the, sometimes the seediness behind people and that sort of thing. So I'm hyped.
Yep. July 11th. It's going to be insane.
Awesome. Bryce, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bryce Hall, actor, creator, boxer, and now horror movie anti-hero. You can watch him and maybe root for him or maybe not in Skillhouse, which is out in theaters right now. And with that, that wraps up this episode of Pop Culture Weekly. We had influencers, icons, trauma, horror, Stephen King, basically a group therapy session with much better lighting. Don't forget to subscribe and review, please. Leave me a 5-star review if that's what you feel, or not, unless you're still mad about that one thing I said in 2021. All right. See you next episode. I love you. We out.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Weekly. Hear all the latest at popcultureweekly.com.
Childhood trauma turns to adult trauma turns to you traumatizing other people. Sing it with me.